Hey everybody, welcome to Zenny 62 on a Wednesday night. First of all, congratulations to new San Francisco Mayor London Breed. London Breed becomes San Francisco's first black female mayor in history. That's right, and she is the only woman of color who's mayor among the 15 largest cities in the United States. 43 years old, attractive, smart, engaging. I met her at the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club breakfast 3 years ago, and fun breakfast, by the way. That's if you ever want to figure out how to get involved in San Francisco Bay Area politics. I know I said San Francisco Bay Area, not just Bay Area or San Francisco. You got to be at the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club party, even if you're not a member of the club. And really, I'm not a member of the Alice B. Toklas Club by membership, okay, by paying dues, right? But I've gone to the breakfast a bunch of times. Uh, everybody is there who's somebody that you need to know. Where's President Wick Welts, San Francisco Public Defender Jeff Adachi, San Francisco DA George Gascon, London Breed, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. I would say maybe about everybody's there who's on the board. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. Libby has gone when she was council member. She went when she was running for mayor. Um, the Hotel Council of San Francisco. Just if you want to get involved in Bay Area politics at a very deep level, you got to be at that breakfast. You got to be at that breakfast, and that's where I met her. In fact, I told her about a study that I wrote for the San Francisco Human Rights Commission when I was hired by Noel Day of Polaris. It was called An Economic Assessment of African Americans in San Francisco from 1964 to 1990. And I told her about it. I sent her a copy of it. Now she's mayor. All right, I had to get that out of. Hey, Rob Iman, how you doing? Nice to see you. Saying that to also mask some very, very sad news. Very sad news that I want to get up front and out of the way because it's just as hard to talk about, but it just something you got to talk about, in my view, and that's the fact that New York Giants general manager Dave Gettleman has has lymphoma, and it's the way it is. Okay, he is he was diagnosed with it. I found out about it by accident, and I found out about it. Look at the Raiders website, but this goes back to June 5th. And this is today is June 13th, right? So, reading Giants.com, it said that June 5th, it was announced he would begin treatments for lymphoma. And I met him briefly at the NFL annual meeting this year. He's a very direct guy. He doesn't mince words. Says what's on. He says exactly what comes out of his mouth. I mean, there's not a regulator between here and here. Not that what he says is nasty, but he's just New York direct. Okay, that's how he is. Hey, how you doing, cowboy? But anyway, this is the statement that Dave Gettleman put out, and he said, recently I underwent an annual physical, during which it was discovered I had lymphoma. Over the past week, I've undergone more testing to determine the course of treatment, which is scheduled to start in the very near future. The doctor's outlook for the treatment and the prognosis is positive, and so am I. Like that. I will continue to work as much of the treatment. I will continue to work with as much of the treatment process, as much. This is a poorly constructed sentence. I'll try again. I will continue to work as much as the treatment process will allow. And as they know, when I'm not in the office, I'll be in constant communication with Pat Shermer, Kevin Abrams, and the rest of our staff. What I read to you, folks, is not different sentences. That's one big sentence. I'm serious. This is one big sentence. It's like, yeah, okay. Anyway, I'm thankful to John Mara and Steve Tisch, the owners, good people, and our organization for their support and encouragement, and Ronnie Barnes for his guidance and assistance, and of course, to my wife, Joan, and our children for the love and support. I also want to thank you in advance for respecting my privacy and that of my family as we work our way through this. I look forward to being back at full strength and devoting all my energy to helping make this 2018 New York Giants team the best it can be. Now, you would say, what does it have to do with the Raiders? Everything. The NFL is essentially a collection of mom and pop businesses. They just happen to make a ton of money, but only a handful of people. Think about it. Only 32 teams and 32 owners. Many of the owners, in fact, I believe all of the owners, have structures where there's no voting membership. That's not true for all, but like the Raiders have that, but others don't. Then you have some teams like the Broncos that are so convoluted with family that they have to have a trust to run them until they can work things out. And then you've got community organizations like the Green Bay Packers, right? But what they all have in common is that they're basically to-your-face, non-bureaucratic organizations. That's how they are. And because of that structure, you come to feel like you know everybody, even if you don't really talk to them much. Like in my case, I feel like I know half the NFL, even though a lot of people I haven't met because I see a person at the owners' meetings. I just pass by them, I nod, right? And it's a cool feeling. So when you get information like this, it hurts. It hurts to read it. And then Raiders special teams coach had a few things to say about that, and I think so do some of you guys do as well. And I'll get to that. I'll get to your comments right now because you're the fans that keep it going. By the way, this is a double shares night for those who want to invest $2. And anyway. And Cowboy Wrestling, Tom Benson passed away as well. Same comments for him. But I think Dave Gettleman, it was unexpected. Mr. Benson, Mr. Benson, as they say, had a good run. Okay, but Dave Gettleman is still running. So you hate to hear about news like the one I presented in the context of someone who is still running the race, as opposed to, okay, I'm about ready to be done with the race, right? Now, the question is, how is this going to shake up the Giants brass? But before I get to that, I do want to discuss, or let you hear, really, I think more appropriately, the comments that were made about Gettleman by Raiders coach Rick Bisaccia. Bisaccia. That's a nice Italian name, isn't it? Anyway, this is Coach Bisaccia, and this is what he has to say.
Can I just do one thing before we start with the questions? I just want to give a shout out to David Gettleman in New York. We all know he's battling cancer right now. He's a real good friend of mine. Certainly been a part of National Football League for a long time. So a lot of people here certainly know him in the Raiders organization, and we're certainly pulling for him in his fight, right? So apologize for letting me do that, but thank you very much. To your question about how we evaluate the kickers right now, it's just going to be an ongoing process. We've been rotating days throughout the majority of the camp, and then we've actually kicked them up.
And I'll
on the same day once before, and we were going to do that a little bit tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. So
I'll play that one more time because the speaker was going in and out. So here's the coach again. So,
Can I just do one thing before we start the questions? I just want to give a shout out to David Gettleman in New York. We all know he's battling cancer right now. He's a real good friend of mine. Certainly been a part of the National Football League for a long time. So a lot of people here certainly know him within the Raiders organization. We're certainly pulling for him in his fight right now. So apologize for letting me do that, but thank you very much. To your question about how we evaluate the kickers right now, it's just going to be an ongoing process. We've been rotating days throughout the majority of the camp, and then we've actually kicked them on the same day once before, and we were going to do that a little bit tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. So, but it's been a good competition. Giorgio's been in the league a while, bounced himself around, and really competed his butt off. And then, you know, the young guy's got a lot of talent, and he just hasn't played football, so it should be a good competition.
Why is that an effective approach for you guys as coaches, just to give each guy a day to focus on handling all the reps?
Well, it's kind of advantageous to us because we can have.
yeah, I want to say something there. I don't know what you think, but I'm going to come back to him in a commentary role because that's a long press conference. It's 16 minutes, but I don't want you to sit there watching me watch a press conference, right? But my whole point is, and that's not the point of this anyway. The point of this is interaction. And anyway, they shouldn't have let Sebastian Janikowski go. Okay, it was a big fat mistake, awful mistake. Just they should not have let Seabass go. That's just it. They should have let him play until his wheels fell off. Okay. They should have let him play until his wheels fell off. I don't know what happened behind the scenes to cause what went down to go down, but that's a lot of bad juju, man. And the Raiders shouldn't have done that to the man. The Raiders shouldn't have done that to someone who's arguably the heart and soul of the organization. Or maybe that was the problem. Maybe he thought he was too much the heart of the soul of the organization. He was uncuttable. But so what? If he's uncuttable, he's uncuttable. Then don't cut him. Don't just cut somebody for reasons of ego. I've got to prove that I'm bigger than you. There's only 2 of us in this town, and one of us has got to go. I mean, come on. Really? Why do I get the feeling that's what happened? Because at the end of the day, for the same reasons that we care, we hear that Gettleman is sick, all right? That, you know, it's a mom and pop. Hey, Barry Lee, I'm going to write the hashtags down for you in the comments so you can see them. That way you can just copy and paste them, okay? But I'm doing that right now. And then trying a different hashtag for spell. And then, let's see here. Oh. And then, okay, there you go. There's the hashtags. You see, you can just make your tweet. Barry Lee is one of our consistent viewers. Thank you, and he also is our consistent first tweeter. But there you go. You just take those hashtags, copy them, paste them into your own Twitter tweet. Off they go. Now, Cowboy Wrestler, I got you. I got your comments there. Okay, so let's go back to have a real conversation and bounce off of what we hear regarding the Raiders coaches saying this or that, right? For example, we got I'm talking about, and a lot of people are talking about basically. Okay, we got Tobecchio and Pernero battling it out for the training camp. Quick hits there. And then they've got, this is John Gruden. This is recaps day 1 of mandatory minicamp. So here's what Coach Gruden has to say about that right here, okay? So and we'll react to that. So here is smiling, Raider hat wearing, gold chain wearing John Gruden. All right, here we go. talking about management.
What are some of the positives that you can take out of day one? I know it's very early, but also what are some of the negatives that you also saw out there?
It's buffering. There we go.
Well, a lot of situations, obviously. Today had a 2-minute drill. The quarterback, Carr, is very impressive today again. He's showing very good command of the offense. I think the first team offense is doing some very good things, running and passing. I like where our defense is going. I was pleased, really, with the guys at the top of the depth chart. I thought Pinero kicked the ball very well. Both our rookie specialists punted the ball extremely well. Some of our backup players got to pick it up. And I think that's probably a standard line around the league this time of year.
I was just talking about how it took a little bit of time for him to get mentally back after missing all the time last year. How have you seen his confidence sort of grow during this offseason?
Oh, it's grown tremendously. I give our secondary coach, Coach Ansley, a lot of credit. He spent a lot of time behind the scenes with Conley. It's been a dark world that he's been in, this young man. He's had a terrible injury he had to rehab from. He's had to change coaches, learn a new system. And it's been a slow, steady process, but, man, is he a good player. And when he's feeling good, you can see why we picked him #1 overall.
Hey!
You guys expect
Hold on a
to start this week, and any concern that their workouts?
There are people like Boss Man who doesn't come back. He's mad at me. He's gonna be mad at me forever, whatever. Which I might add, folks, it's very unhealthy to be angry with a person for reasons that are essentially, ridiculous. But the Raiders are interested in showing why, particularly Reggie McKenzie, GM, why he went through so much investigations, skipping Cam Robinson at the 24 to get Conley. He's interested in showing this year why that was all worth it. So I can understand why the full court press regarding media is being done, because McKenzie wants to say, hey, look, you know what? This guy is healthy. You can't see what he's doing in practice, but we need to tell you that what he's doing is tremendous. And we are excited. Hey, Joseph Binsman makes the comment here. He just popped in. He says, hey, guys, I heard about Gettleman and hope he overcomes. Same here. And Cowboy Wrestler asked, he says, real quick, what's your thoughts on the mega merger between AT&T and Time Warner? To me, it's clear antitrust violation. I'll be candid with you. I haven't really sat down to look at what that would mean schematically. In other words, Time Warner has an enormous film library, enormous television library. AT&T has an enormous distribution system. But what it fully means, what it entirely means is, well, it's hard for me to think of it as consolidation because you have two existing organizations that have their strengths separate. And I don't see them changing, but I do see the possibility of higher rates for content across the board because of ownership, right? But having said that, I feel like I'm talking out of my rear, even though I understand economic structures and corporate structures and the dynamics of economic organizations, I think better than most people. But I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at that. That's my preliminary cut, okay? Back to the Raiders. Thank you for sending the tweet. Marv Iman says, Ma Bell in the media business now. Well, yeah, but Ma Bell has already been in the media business, if you think about it. I mean, I'm watching DirecTV, which AT&T DirecTV, right? So, I mean, it's already in the media business. That's why I think about it a little differently. But back to the point here, and then back to Gruden. Here we go.
Are mandatory now that he's missing?
I don't know. I just hope so. It's one of the big reasons I came here is to coach that man. But I don't want to speculate. There's a lot of guys
He's
in the
talking about Khalil Mack
players
now.
that are in a similar situation. We're just trying to resolve it as soon as possible. And in the meantime, coach the players that are here.
You guys have been very diplomatic in terms of handling Khalil's situation. Not really want to talk about the players who aren't here. That being said, today was the first mandatory day he's missed. It's under the, the team has the ability to fine a player for any unexcused absence. Will he be fined?
I'll just move on with the questions. I'm not going to get into what we're going to do. That's our business, honestly, and we'll deal with it accordingly. We're hoping to get the man signed, and I'll leave it at that.
Two guys yesterday, Frosty and Tuba. What do you see in those two guys, and why'd you bring them in?
Well, Rucker is a guy that's been a very good physical football player at multiple positions for a long time, and has history with Gunther. That's obvious, but he started a lot of games for Arizona last season. His versatility and leadership is outstanding. And when you have,
I have to say something, and I agree with John's take on this because he's the coach. But look, what happens with media too often, and I mean really too often, is particularly if they don't know football, they like to get into the gossip stuff. They might as well be writing Hollywood entertainment stuff about what Steve so-and-so did with Gene What's, or what Kim Kardashian did with her husband, or you get the, you know what I mean? And this is an example of it. I don't know, every time we have a camp, there's always somebody that holds out, but they don't hold out for the reasons you think. Sometimes there's always a veteran player that knows the drills, they understand working out, they can pick up their plays quickly, and in other cases they want a contract like Julio Jones here in Atlanta, right? But to get the team, what the team is trying to avoid, and it's a very smart thing to do, okay? They're trying to avoid having a negotiation with the player through the media. So what John is saying is following the same line that Dan Quinn is saying here in Atlanta. I got to believe this is an NFL policy. Not one that's communicated to the public, but one that is a behind the closed doors kind of memo, text message sort of thing about the stuff that's done with your attorneys in the league, your attorneys with the team, with the fear of disturbing the collective bargaining situation in the future, near future, because we're coming up to that, okay? So I believe that they don't want to upset a situation with a player, so that player is more likely to strike or join together with other players in the strike or cause some kind of disturbance. That's my theory, and that's a hypothesis, an educated guess based on study, all right? But I think it's a good idea. You want to keep everything behind closed doors. You don't want to say something in the media that you'll later regret. And it's not necessary. And on the other hand, the people who cover the media should know enough football that they can get away, they can go on without asking specific gossip type questions. But I find that today that's not the case. Barry Lee says, hey, Ziddy, I can't say these new meds. Okay, Barry, hey, good night, man. I'll see you. Okay. Joseph Bismuth says, I'm also worried about my Giants offensive line because I didn't realize in early March the 49ers stole an awesome center, Richburg, in free agency. Now only 2 linemen I feel sure about. Okay, gotcha. Anyway, let's back to what Coach Gruden was saying.
Arden Key, and you have Hurst, and you've got P.J. Hall. It helps when you have a veteran physical football player at multiple positions for a long time, and has history with Gunther. That's obvious, but he started a lot of games for Arizona last season. His versatility and leadership is outstanding. And when you have Arden Key and you have Hurst and you've got P.J. Hall, it helps when you have a veteran presence in every room. And Rucker will help us do that. I really like this guy. Ataba Rubin is another mammoth nose tackle. We needed depth there. Vanderdoes is not practicing. Don't know when he will practice.
Wow.
Mario Edwards has had some injuries, hasn't practiced a lot. So Rubin gives us another big guy that can work inside and keep our linebackers clean and be a contender to help our team.
We're, obviously, you got through the OTAs and everything, and we're headed, and now we're at mini camps. Did you see the progress that you wanted to see from the start of OTAs until now?
Yeah, I have. I really have. I'm really happy. We got a lot to prove yet. We're a long way off, but we've laid a very good foundation. We've added a lot of new players. We felt like we needed to do that. This roster needed help, and we went out and helped ourselves, I think. A lot of these players came, I think, with very little signing bonus. They came almost, some of them I think would play for nothing. And that's the attitude that we need here.
Hear that?
We need competition, we need depth, we need leadership, we need players.
Hear that? You just heard in that statement, John Gruden just admitted, hey, we got these players for cheap. And we are looking for players who wanted to just play. They didn't care about the buck. That's essentially what he said. If you're wondering why the draft looked like it did, if you're wondering why the Raiders were obviously grabbing the low-hanging fruit, cost reasons. Low cost, high motor. That's the idea going in this time.
Hard, tough football players. And I think that's what the Oakland Raider franchise is built around. And we have made progress. We've laid a foundation, and now it's up to us to continue to stack days together, get some momentum, and go to training camp and get ready for the regular season.
I don't think Rob Hyman says that you think that Gruden is trying to scapegoat McKenzie. Why is that? I don't see that. I don't understand why there's this desire to pit Gruden against McKenzie. You know, I don't know where that's coming from. I mean, for one thing, McKenzie has a longer term contract. I don't know if anybody realizes that. And Gruden's of course 10 years. So what's the whole idea behind trying to pit the two of them, as opposed to the fact that the general manager is there and helps the coach achieve the coach's dreams in terms of fashioning an organization? Joseph Bender says thing about it is that eventually, after 3 players prove themselves, they want to get paid. That's where my Giants are with Odell Beckham. He definitely deserves to be paid. You're reminding me back to the Giants, but I'm talking about the specifics of McKenzie, okay, and Gruden, and and Rob Ivan says blame the GM for the cheap talent. Excuse me? No. Who has to write the check? It's the owner. Blame the owner for the cheap talent. Why? Because the owner is spending part of the team money in Vegas. Because the owner is spending gobs of money on that guy right there, the coach. So you blame the owner. I don't get, people don't understand that at the end of the day, it's the owner that allows the money to go in and out. I mean, I don't get that. I don't get that. I just don't. It's I wish somebody would explain to me why owners get a cheap, or maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like owners get away with that. I don't get that. Okay, enough about me. Let's go back to Gruden.
Like a dry run for training camp? Is this a different setup these 3 days than say the OTAs were?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, this way we practice nowadays is tough. I mean, you're not allowed to have any contact. You're not allowed to play bump and run. You're not allowed to be on the ground. You got to be very careful. It's hard to do. It's hard to do when you're trying to make a football team. It's hard for Marshawn Lynch to play his kind of game in this style of football. Doug Martin, same thing. Osemele. We're trying to teach our pass protection, our system of offense, our entry of blitz on defense, but you don't want the collision. So most of this is timing and assignments. And trying to bring men together where they can get familiar with one another.
What's your take when?
No, that concerns me. That's Coach sour graping. Oh, I'm back, and it's not like it used to be, and oh my God, we can't do this, and oh, we can't do that, and you never hear any other coach talk about it like that, because I mean, if you take a coach like, well, take Bill Belichick. He's been, well, coaching. He was coaching when Gruden left. He's still coaching. So you don't hear him griping about that. He's figured out a way to adjust to all that, and they win, right? He's griping. I think that's a bad thing because John has gone on about it again and again and again. And I mean, he's griping about this stuff, about what you can't do in practices and everything. He was griping about the same stuff when he gave the interview at the NFL Combine. Okay, it's kind of like at some point, you got to settle down and coach and stop whining about the change. I'm sorry, John, but that's what it sounds like to me. You know? Let me say, oh, woe is me. Is that prepping us for a lousy year? What is that? You know, just, okay? That concerns me. Come on, man.
See a little scuffle like he had out there. Is that annoy you that guys are getting into it? Do you like some of the aggressiveness? How do you kind of feel when you see?
Well, this is a stupid question. He hates the aggressiveness. No, he hates it when they get into it. This is a ridiculous question. He's like, okay, all right, I understand that the guy who asked the question feels like he has to get an answer to fill in a blank. In other words, rather than the guy saying that he likes the aggressiveness, he's not a columnist. He's got to get Gruden to say it to plug it into his article. Okay? But that still does not excuse the fact that it sounds like a stupid question.
I haven't had that. You know, we really have stressed the etiquette that you have to be an Oakland Raider. We have to work against each other. We got to practice against each other every day. I didn't like what happened today, particularly in the situation. You know, you hear all this situational football talk around the league. We're in a 2-minute drill to win the game, and we got a guy ejected for fighting. That's a 15-yard penalty, and Eddie Pinero ended their day with a game-winning field goal. So I'd hate to fly back from London or wherever the hell we got to play, Miami or all these road trips we got, losing a game like that. So sorry for getting unglued.
No, I don't blame him. I mean, because like you said, you like that aggressiveness. And the guy expressed, oh, yeah, I like it. And he was referring to a fight. And his thought is, hey, look, that costs me. That's going to cost me yardage. And he's right. It's going to cost him yardage. You don't want that.
Good idea. On the previous question, in the sense that it's not going fast enough for you, that you have to actually hold back because of all the rules and everything you have to deal with.
No, it's the same for everybody. You have to adapt. We've practiced in shorts when I coached before. This is not my first rodeo. I'm just saying at the end of the off-season program, guys are tired of it. They're ready to get ready for training camp, play some real football, and it's tough. We tell the defense, don't bat balls down. We tell the offense, you know, don't be too aggressive in chop block and pass protection. There's a lot of rules of etiquette that we have to keep coaching and talking about. It gets tough, and the players get tired of it.
Practice, so the first time I get to talk to you since we learned the Lions are going to be practicing against you. How did that come about? Do you have a relationship with Patricia, or was it how exactly did you guys, the Lions, come together to do this? Yeah,
I like Matt Patricia a lot. I had a lot of respect for him. I've spent time with him, obviously, when I was in my previous role. He's a heck of a guy. He's a great coach. I trust him. I think he trusts how we want to get better and improve as a football team on both ends. And there'll be specific situations. It'll be controlled.
Rob Iman says he pitched for the A's in a blowout.
Opportunity to see a different opponent. Give us an opportunity to see a different style of offense and defense, and our young players will get a chance.
Cowboy Wrestler says, "Geez, Gruden is so boring from an X's and O's standpoint. I've always thought he was overrated as a coach, especially when he was in Oakland. The first time around, he won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay with Dungy's team." Well, actually, he won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay because Dungy's team was ready for a different voice and a guy who knew offense. Tony, at the time, didn't know enough to know he didn't know offense, and so he hired Clyde Christensen to handle the offense at Tampa Bay, and they sucked. But then he went to the Colts, brought Tom Moore with him, who he was a smart guy, which signaled the fact that Coach Dungy realized, hey, look, if I'm going to succeed as a head coach at the NFL level, I've got to be comfortable with showing up a weakness I have rather than ignoring it. he did just that. He found a guy that was a friend of his who knew more offense than he did, to a point where he was able to have a simple but effective system, teach it to Peyton Manning, excel, and then Dungy learned from that and was able to make inputs here and there, but also it gave him the luxury of just focusing on the defense. That was great, okay? Now, John Gruden is a different kind of guy. He is an X's and O's offense guy. How he has grown, if he has grown, and his ability to take the violence out of the game that he knew and replace it with a truly innovative football knowledge, to me, is the real test. And I hear what you're saying about, the Tampa Bay experience and everything, because no, the offense wasn't particularly innovative. I've never associated John with a particularly innovative offense. I have now, in fact, the most innovative offense the Raiders had came after John left, and that was by the offensive line coach, Bill. Bill's last name just flew right out of my head, but he had Rich Gannon and Jerry Rice, and they had Mark Trestman as the offensive coordinator. And I think particularly Trestman made the biggest difference. They had an incredibly exciting offense to watch that was very effective, and made Rich Gannon one of the best, arguably, if not arguably, the best quarterback the Raiders have ever had statistically. In fact, statistically, he still is the best quarterback the Raiders have ever had today. So, yeah, I mean, I can really see what you're talking about with respect to Gruden, and that kind of concerns me. What I take away from that is, and in my brief set of conversations with him, is I think he's watched enough football and talked to enough people in college and his friends to have made his game more contemporary. And I think made his game more contemporary than he lets on. I think some of what he's letting on, some of what he's introducing is bluster in that, and the approach that we see from him will be dramatically different than what some of us expect. What I expect to see is an approach that is a lot like what the Eagles present with Carson Wentz. And I think it's going to be very exciting. I think it's going to be very exciting. Bill Callahan. Thank you very much, Rob. Bill Callahan. But you guys see what I'm talking about? All right, back to Gruden.
Chance to hopefully gain some confidence by playing against somebody else before they really have to under the lights.
In the position battle between Pinheiro and Tavecchio, how much can be determined here in practice, and how much of it will have to wait until actual game-like atmospheres in the preseason?
Yeah, it'll be a battle into camp. Tavecchio's had a heck of a camp. It just so happens that it was Eddie's turn to kick today. So we're not going one kick here, one kick there, taking turns and rotating. It's Tavecchio's day. It's Pinheiro's day. It allows these guys to mentally go out there and be better instead of rotating. But it's going to be a battle. The young kid can kick the ball, and Tavecchio's proven he's an NFL kicker.
You mentioned Assembly a couple of minutes ago. He came here 2 years ago and pretty much changed the entire aggressiveness of the offensive line, just his presence, it seemed like. What's been your observation of him, coaching him now?
Yeah, I like him a lot, obviously. Those three guys inside are a pleasure to be around. Can't say enough about the physicality of Assembly. He's rare that way. The guy in the pivot is a sensational player now. Rodney Hudson makes us go. He's the straw that stirs the drink. This guy's a great athlete, smart, doesn't miss a snap, doesn't miss a call. And Gabe Jackson's the most underrated guard. For him not to be in the Pro Bowl, there really should be an investigation, honestly. We got three really good players in there. And it's important that these young tackles, whoever it's going to be, Donald Penn, who's it going to be at left tackle, at right tackle, we've got to catch up to them. Because if we do, we got a chance.
Miller and Arden Key seem to be swapping some pretty good reps against each other, each of them having their own victories along the way. What have you seen from that matchup of two young players getting to the mix?
Yeah, we like them both. We like Colt Miller a lot. What we're doing with him right now, with all the audibles, all the check with me's, all the different speeds that we're playing with, it's taxing on a young guy. He's an underclassman out of UCLA. Hasn't really.
You hear that? You just heard a clue as to the type of offense to expect. And okay, this is me guessing, but when he says that with all the double check with me's and everything, what he's talking about is, and he said at different speeds. Now I'm theorizing, I haven't seen it, but I believe that what Gruden is referring to is going with a huddle and then going without a huddle, and then occasionally going with, huddle and then coming back, and that's the modern NFL offense. That's what you're going to see with Frank Reich at the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, you saw a lot of that with the Eagles in the Super Bowl, right? And I think you're going to see a lot of that with the Niners this year. I would say that based on my listening and conversations at the NFL annual meeting, there are about 7 or 8 teams that you should expect to see that kind of approach from this coming year. The Raiders, one of them. The other, definitely the Eagles. Well, the Falcons, the Niners. And I'm thinking of teams that haven't done before. The Eagles have, okay? The Niners, the Falcons, the Seahawks, and the New York Football Giants, and the Chicago Bears. Okay, so those are 7 teams. I said 8 teams, but the Miami Dolphins as well, because the Miami Dolphins are still tinkering, and then the Baltimore Ravens. So that's 9-10 teams right there. The Ravens are obvious because they have Lamar Jackson. All right, so it's going to be an exciting. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. This is going to be the most exciting year in offense in the history of the National Football League. Okay, that's my preliminary prediction. Now I got to back it up, but yeah, that's my hypothesis, my educated guess based on study. That's what it tells me.
He's been in a huddle very often, but he is a great athlete. He's done a hell of a job for us. And Arden Key is got some special pass rush ability, and we expect those two guys to make each other better as we move forward. We like both those players.
Looked like Marcus Gilchrist and a couple other guys weren't out there. Were any of the absences injured?
Yeah, they were out there today. Gilchrist had a slight calf strain, so we held him out. He's been arguably our best safety all camp. He's extremely versatile. Can play nickel, can play free, can play strong.
Hey, Joseph Bismuth says Deshaun Watson will be back too, and I hope I'll finally help the Andrew Luck. Among those watching, do you think Andrew Luck will be on the field for the first preseason game, yes or no? I say no. What say you? First preseason game. Will Andrew Luck be on the field for the Indianapolis Colts for the first preseason game? I got no's all over the place. I'm in no. Cowboy Wrestler, no. I say no. So, no. No, I can't see it. There's this, he's coming along fine. Look, you're either ready or you're not, right? You're either ready or you're not. All right, Bible says, fact or fiction, Andrew Luck doesn't play this season. Whoa, I would say fiction, because doesn't play to me. If I say he's not going to play and then he steps out for a few plays, or maybe half a game, he played. Now, do you mean he doesn't play the full season? I'm not ready to go that far. Joseph Bin says, today a guy on ESPN reported that Luck took 10 or 15 snaps at camp. I think, yes. 10 or 15 snaps is not a lot. You can take 10 or 15 snaps in my backyard in one day. That's 10 snaps. And then taking a snap is far different from throwing a football, okay? To take the snap and hand off is like, okay, well, whatever. I can get you to do that, or you can get me to do that, right? But to throw, it would be a different thing if the fellow had said, Andrew Luck completed 10 or 15 passes. That means what? He threw, okay? So, bottom line is fact or fiction. Luck is traded next off season. Possible. I see that as possible. My gut is telling me that Andrew Luck's hunger for the game isn't where it used to be. And I think that taking away coaches like Pep Hamilton, who was his coach at Stanford, putting him in situations that were not the best. Then, of course, coming back from injury is never fun. He's a smart guy. His mind is all over the place. I see him as an executive running something very... I see him as a startup exec. Andrew Luck is the kind of guy, to me, who can put down football right now and run a startup. Okay? That's the impression that I got when I first met Andrew Luck, and it's always been in my head. And that's why I asked him if he was considering taking some of that signing bonus money and then putting it into one of those startup companies started by one of his friends at Stanford. I was only half kidding when I asked him that question. No, I wasn't kidding at all. I just wasn't. Excuse me. And so Joseph Business says it's more than the nothing. He has been doing a lot. Laugh out loud. Plus, he has all summer to keep getting healthy. I'm leaning toward yes. Getting healthy is one thing, but stepping on the field and being effective is something else. Now, the advantage he will have is stepping into this suit that a new offense provides. And what I mean by that is we don't know, and the opponents don't know, have a feel for what the Colts are going to do, and they have to defense that. So if Frank Reich comes in with something, and I think he will, that'll be effective against defenses, it's gonna take 5 or 6 games to lead to catch up. And then if the talent on the roster is good, that will overcome any defensive adjustments the opponents have made by the 5th or 6th game to catch up to what the Colts are doing. Because by that time, there will be a quote book on them, or maybe it's more appropriate to say a tape, right? Or data. But that will be the test. If that happens, then Luck is in good shape. That's a big if, okay? That's a huge, huge if. Benjamin says that, Iman says, I see Luck going to Denver next year if Keenum doesn't work out. I can't see that far in the future because there's too many, way too many variables, way too many possibilities with you've got Keenum not working out in Denver. You forgot that Denver has Paxton Lynch. Paxton Lynch could emerge as the better player this year. Okay? So that point of view assumes everybody else is fixed in their positions now. Never assume that. Never assume that. How many times have we seen, the Raiders are a great example, a team bring on a guy through a trade that's supposed to be the starter, and that guy fizzles out and somebody else comes in. Remember when Matt Schaub came to the Raiders? Anybody? Hello? Remember the name? Matt Schaub? Hello? Anybody remember that name? Hello? Anybody? Does anybody remember Matt Schaub for the Raiders? Hello? Okay? All right. My point. Okay, right. All right. He was supposed to be the savior. Instead, what did he wind up doing? Throwing interceptions. They blamed him and not the system, okay? All right? And Schaub and Flynn. Thank you. Matt Flynn, who was going gangbusters with the Seahawks, and so the assumption was, well, he's got to do better with, he's just got to do better with the Raiders. It didn't happen. Why should that not be the case with Case Keenum in Denver, or in the case of Washington Redskins old quarterback Kirk Cousins, who went over to Minnesota, right? So, there's no guarantees here. a trade does not equal a Super Bowl champion. It just doesn't. Okay.
Versace guy on special teams, and that was more.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to stop at 140. It's 124, mainly because I had my blog last night, and this week is at it. My new blog, Oakland. Has anyone checked out my new blog, Oakland News Now? Please do. If you haven't, I hope you do. But it had a red letter, great traffic week, stupendous traffic week, to the point where it crashed. So I was up most of the night last night with HostGator having it fixed. Okay. Hey, John Marks, how you doing? And it's better than ever now. But as a result, I need some sleep. Cowboy Russia says, geez, the Raiders have gone through so many quarterbacks over the years. I don't remember who they are. I do. John Mark says, I got no notification. Again? Man. Okay, I don't understand why that is, but they need to get this notification stuff nailed down. All right, hold on a second.
More of a precautionary matter. I think Gary on is okay. We don't really have any injuries of significance to really report to you today.
He's doing more since the last time we talked.
He's doing more.
Yeah, but it seems like
he is. He's out there more. He's out there more. He's getting close to being all the way back. So he and Conley both have had some dark, quiet moments with the trainer, and I think his confidence is growing. I saw him pull the trigger and really get off the hash and move the other day, and you see the 4.4 speed that is talked about. But he's got a lot of ground to make up. He's missed a lot of work, and it's competitive back there. The guy that's really been stunning for us is Eric Harris. You know, I'm doing my research on this guy. Who is this cat? This guy's played really good football for us. And I don't care what round they are coming from. This kid is really rising to the top right now.
Did you hear that? Eric Harris.
I've been to the team for a little bit over a month now. So from what you've seen through practices and just being around him, what's really stood out for him since joining the team?
Well, his presence stands out. It has a feel to the defense. You know, in the walkthroughs, during stretch, the confidence. I think the bar raises when you get a guy of that status in this league. Quick study, learned the defense. He recognizes formations. He can cover. I still think he's got some thump in that body. And I give him a lot of credit. The man got married last weekend, gets married, and flies back for an OTA the next day. Now, if you don't like that, you don't like football. So his dedication to the game is spectacular. And he's what we need. He's what we need. We need a presence in the middle of our defense. It's been a turnstile, the linebacker position here, for a long time. And hopefully he can help develop Morrow, Markel Lee, two young guys that I think could benefit from watching them.
Meanwhile, the Raiders signed another linebacker in free agency the other day.
Tom Cable brought you guys as a line coach, especially with the young tackles that you're trying to develop.
Yeah, he brings us not only experience, championship experience, head coaching experience, a lot of versatility. He's coached in a lot of different schemes, different runners, different quarterbacks, different head coaches. He's versatile. He can adapt, but he's a tough guy. You know, and usually the tough coaches, they help develop tough lines. And the thing I love about Cable is he's a great teacher. You know, you can go down and sit in an offensive line meeting for 30 minutes, and he can coach about 3 days worth of information. He's always ready. He's sharp, but he's a really good teacher, and he's into it every day. And he's a tough guy. We like him.
Welcome. We were talking about your rookie defensive lineman last week, and he said although they're only in shorts, he feels like over this point in his career, he can really tell a lot, even still, about certain guys. What are you able to tell, albeit in shorts, on Mo and PJ and Arden?
Well, it's the same thing as Paul said. You can tell in shorts. I mean, it really favors the defense in some ways because every play is a pass. And we don't have a lot of running plays. We ran it more today than we did in the last 3 practices combined. So the offense is always retreating up front, but you can tell guys that can.
Did you hear that? Listen to this. Listen to this, folks. Listen.
We were talking about your rookie defensive lineman
Listen
last week, and he said although they're only in shorts, he feels like over this this point in his career, he can really tell a lot, even still, about certain guys. What are you able to tell, albeit in shorts, on Mo and PJ and Arden?
Well, it's the same thing as Paul said. You can tell in shorts. I mean, it really favors the defense in some ways because every play is a pass. And we don't have a lot of running plays. We ran it more today than we did in the last 3 practices combined. So the offense is always...
He says we don't have a lot of running plays. And what that indicates to me is that they're going to go with a more simple, hybrid read option style of offense. I personally like having a lot of running plays. And now, the other question is, what does he mean by not a lot? In the 49ers first Super Bowl, they went into that game with, pulled out of the playbook, 89 passes and 31 runs. Okay? So if he's thinking from the standard Bill Walsh / West Coast offense perspective, 31 runs is still a lot of runs. So the question is, does he mean from that perspective, or does he mean like 10 running plays? Then I'll have to find out. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not going to pretend like I do. Joseph Business says, that doesn't sound good for Marshawn. Gonna have to figure out the runs that work for him. No, you know what though? I'm certain he's got that part figured out. And I would be shocked if we didn't see Marshawn Lynch in some type of hybrid, either a that would be a complete philosophical sea change for John Gruden. It really would. I can't see that not being the case. Even if it's kind of a cockeyed eye out of a spread where you have the quarterback back 5 yards and you have the I formation on the right or the left. Okay. Or you have a pistol. All right.
Retreating up front, but you can tell guys that can cover grass, that have some pass rush arsenal, they have the speed to get the edge, they have some power to run over you, and they're quick studies, and they're in great shape. What I'm really impressed with is the conditioning of our young draft choices. They haven't missed a second, and we have worked the hell out of these guys. We pushed them hard.
Hey, that includes Mr. Hurst. Whoa!
So I like that a lot. They all seem to like football. A lot of young guys today, they're not quite sure how much they like OTAs and long 8-hour days. They're used to the NCAA where it's a little bit different. But there's a lot to like so far.
You've seen from Carl Joseph so far, are there ways you can use him where he's not, he had issues when he's isolated on these 6'6" tight ends sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's tough. I mean, he's going to have to be isolated on him again in certain coverages against certain formations. That might happen again, but he's showing up around the ball. He's touching off. We chart how many times each defender gets to the ball, and I would say Carl leads our team in getting to the ball. So his effort's been outstanding. He's still learning this defense, and fortunately for him, he can sit in the meeting with Leon Hall, Reggie Nelson, guys that have had a lot of history with Gunther. And I think as that improves, he'll improve. But, we're not going to change genetics. There's going to be times where he's in a tough matchup. That's just the way it's going to be.
Derek Carr taking over the offense and showing that he's really grasping the system. Has anyone else on that side of the ball stood out to you about, their leadership or just them and the wide receivers and the offensive line?
Yeah, we had a number of guys. Jordy Nelson has been really good behind the scenes, playing multiple positions. Jared Cook's had a great camp. I did not know Jared Cook moved like.
Hey, Jordy Nelson and Jared Cook played on the Packers, but something that John Gruden said is another giveaway as to what to expect with the offense. Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this.
Derek Carr taking over the offense and showing that he's really grasping the system. Has anyone else on that side of the ball stood out to you about, their leadership or just them and the wide receivers and the offensive line?
Yeah, we had a number of guys. Jordy Nelson has been really good behind the scenes, playing multiple positions. Jared.
That means they're going to move him around. So instead of Jordy Nelson just being, say, split end, we might see him at tight end. We might see him at slot. You know, we might see him at the Z. So they're gonna play matchup ball. I mean, I know where that's coming. They're gonna play matchup ball with Jordy Nelson. They're gonna take Jordy Nelson with his height and his catchability, and they're gonna put him on the defender that they think is most vulnerable to his type of physical style. If he is in any kind of shape like he was, this is in 2011 when the Super Bowl was in Dallas and Green Bay played the Steelers, then the Raiders really got something. Now, this is 2018. That's a lot of time elapsed. But, and a lot of really, really physical, fast defenders have come on the scene over that time, right? But if they could find that kind of matchup where Jordy Nelson at 6'4" or whatever, or 6'3", is on a cornerback who's 5'9" or 5'10", it's going to be ugly. All day long, ugly. Catch and run. And that's what he's thinking. Doesn't take much to figure that one out.
Cook's had a great camp. I did not know Jared.
Same for Jared Cook.
Cook moved like that. I knew he had very good pass receiving skills, but we can line him up at a lot of different places now. He's been really sharp, and we've asked him to do a lot. And the running backs have probably stood out the most. Of one position group, Doug Martin, Marshawn Lynch, Jalen Richard can play, DeAndre can play, and this young Chris Warren kid out of Texas is a good player. And I like Keith Smith. That has been a real good group, polished. Haven't made a lot of mistakes, and they practice hard.
You saw you guys like Hackenberg. How would you evaluate the guys you have behind Derek right now?
Yeah, he's disappointed in not really giving Christian the opportunity to go to camp. Like I said, we felt we needed to add a couple defensive linemen. We ran out of numbers, and that's not good at that position heading into camp. It's hard to get one guy ready right now, let alone 2 and 3. But Connor Cook's game is moving up. He's doing better. He still, I think, has some rough edges that he can improve. E.J. Manuel's an athletic guy. He's made some strides. But right now, it's Derek Carr, and it's wide open after that.
Wow. That's the end of it. Okay, so there you go. That was the conference that Gruden gave yesterday, and you heard it. And so basically the takeaway is the offense is coming along well. The defense first team is coming along really well. Draft picks are performing really well. Offensive line is great shape. They've got, reading between the lines about what he said and didn't, they've got some work to do on special teams. And they're still trying to figure out what their depth chart's going to look like behind defensively, because they keep moving around people, they're bringing in people. But the offense sounds like it's set. It sounds like the offense is set. Defense is still a work in progress. That's the picture that I get. But of course, this is really early in the game, and nobody's hitting anybody. As John Mark said, we'll see. And Cowboy Russell says, Jordy Nelson, I hope, will build great chemistry with Carr, as he did with Rodgers in Green Bay. I think a lot of that depends on scheme. But that said, I believe that John's putting in the kind of scheme that will foster that kind of relationship. All right, got 3 minutes till closing time at the intellectual bar. Anybody have any parting shots or parting thoughts they want to share before I sign off? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, I was about to say, all right, here we go. Malcontent, is there any news on he asks, on the Oakland pursuing a lawsuit against the Raiders and the NFL for non-monetary damages? No. But I will say this. I don't see the lawsuit being filed, because if the lawsuit were filed, talks between the Raiders and the Joint Powers Authority between a lease on a lease extension would come to a halt. They would come to a screeching halt. Okay, and on Friday morning, the Joint Powers Authority in closed session is going to review the latest lease extension proposal. Okay, so Joseph Bismuth says, Cowboy Wrestler says thoughts on Canada, U.S. and Mexico getting the World Cup in 2026. Other than I think it's a great thing, no, I don't have anything preliminarily. I just hope my mom is around by that time. That's my thought. Okay, it's 2018, and that's always my first thought. Joseph, I hope I'm married before my mom leaves here. You know, so it's got a lot of work to do. John Mark says I like to see soccer at Oakland. Hey, I got a question. What would it take for me to get back to a footing where people are investing again? What do I have to? I mean, because I got the impression that people were investing because they thought the Vegas thing was going to go to pot. And even though I never said it was going to, I gave a number of reasons why it's a bad deal and what's wrong with it. And I never said it was going to stop. But I had the impression that people were, you know, kind of betting on the come. And I was thinking, gee, I hope they don't, right, you know? But what would it take? What would you all like to see that would cause you all to invest more in the future? Because that's, to me, that's a hallmark of when I'm doing a great job in this, okay? So, and I'm here, and then the good news is that, now my main blog is on Google News, and I've got a mainstream media blog, and now I can start announcing live streams on that way and everything else. You know, I've got the live stream hooked up to that, okay? So, and the subscription count is going up, but, which is really a great thing. But again, what would you all like to see? Maybe I should, yeah. And I get no answer. You're all just sitting there watching me. But what do you want to see? In fact, is that it? Do you want to see like a discussion of something like CrossFit? You know, CrossFit trainers, something like that. Malcontent says, Malcontent, you didn't answer my question. So I'm not going to read a comment until I get my question answered. Or maybe, no, that's not quite right on my part. Malcontent made a great statement. Malcontent says, that may very well be true of the lease, but it's unfortunate and irresponsible that the city council and city attorney don't wish to pursue the money that they think we're owed. I didn't say that, but look, there's a lot I'd like to say that I can't say because I promised I wouldn't, okay? But there is a reason why it's not filed. I cannot specifically go into what that reason is at this point in time. They would have to say it, all right? But for me to say it, other than what I said, which was true, okay? I can't say where I got this from, but the point is that, look, if the lawsuit were filed, the Raiders would stop negotiations on the lease. That would be it. And there's money to be made, okay? So do I agree with that? You know, I don't know. Oh, here's a good answer. Joseph Business says, John Marks wants to do a Zinni marathon. That's an interesting idea. Joseph Business says, I like the mix as it is. Sports, politics, social, cultural. You do a good job with your content. Hey, thank you. John Marks says, BS, Zinni. Oakland needs to file, period. Malcontent says, I understand that there are transactional considerations. Yeah, there are. I mean, look, here's the problem, folks. The problem is that, all right, should we file and let the Raiders sweat it out? Yeah, we should. But we're not doing it. And as I said before, and this goes back to a conversation I cannot reel I had at this point, 2 months ago now, a month and a half ago, that really changed my feeling about this whole deal to where I don't feel we have the right leadership in total to create the kind of sports nexus that other cities are making, okay? We have too many elected officials that are interested in being activists. And they don't want to sit down and really sweat the details regarding forming complex political solutions. It's not that they can't, but what's changed is we have this environment, this society that's hypermedia. People are bombarded. They're seeking attention all the time, like myself on television here, right? And it takes away from, if you're a policy person, the ability and the need to really sit down and sweat the details over a multifaceted approach to the solution of a problem. That's a government policy. And we need that, and we're not getting it. And we've had it in the past. And you have to ask the question, do we have more time to be smarter then, as opposed to today? And I think the answer is yeah. I don't think people feel like they have enough time to sit down and think, or they have the desire to do so. They want a quick answer now. And then we have a lot of people who simply are skilled at saying no. Like, they're for. No, no, no. As opposed to getting to yes is hard. Building yes is harder, right? That's the sad truth today. But here's the other sadder truth. I think that regionally we're different. Do you realize something extraordinary happened? Who advanced a heavy subsidy for a sports team got elected to be one step from governor and beat the challenger that voted against the same initiative. And I'm talking about Steve Sisolak versus Christian Giuliani. Or Dan Schwartz versus Paul Laxalt. If people were that angry about that subsidy, that thing would have gone down in flames. The big question to ask is, why did that not happen? The builder in me, the part thinks it's a good thing. And I'll tell you why I think it's a good thing. After like decade after decade of, oh, the Raiders are the third rail of politics in Oakland parlance, which is why we would never consider that kind of tax expenditure, because it means it's a signal that we can actually start building things in government again. The trouble is that they're doing it in Vegas, and they're doing it in other parts of the country, but they're not doing it in the Bay Area and not doing it in Oakland. All right? This is a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal what happened. And I got to write about it because no one else has. It's a big deal what happened this week. It really is. It's a big deal. And it's going to leave Oakland on the outside of the growth of the sports industry looking in. That's the saddest part about all of this. Okay? And that's why you see me reacting the way that I do about, I haven't given up entirely. But I don't have any faith in the way Oakland is governed right now. And it doesn't necessarily take a change to exact change, okay? It takes a realization that you're headed in the direction that's not working and going in another direction. And I say it that way because we have been putting the same kind of people in office in Oakland for, by my estimation, the last 10 years. And yeah, about last 10 years. Just about before ranked choice voting. And I say same type, like activist. One thing ranked choice voting has given us is the activist per type. And activists are better at reacting. Activists are better at reacting to power than being the power. Show me an activist and I'll show you a person who has an issue maintaining power and understanding how to wield political power. And that's bad for all of us. And yet, that's what we're getting. Okay? And I'm saying this fully aware that someone watching this who's running for office, who is an activist type, is hearing this. Because the people that I'm thinking about have it in mind to not be that. They can shift their gears if they want to, but they're afraid to do so for a whole set of complicated reasons. All right, so John Mark says, I think we need to concentrate on getting an NFL expansion team, call them the Oakland Invaders. Mark says, yeah, Oakland needs to go get a pair and show Mark Davis we need business. John Mark says, Oakland can survive without the Raiders. And he says, oh, Steve Sisolak will lose. I hope he doesn't. John Mark, are you a Republican? I'm not. I really hope Steve Sisolak win. I will help. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I will help him win. He's now the standard bearer. I will help him win. Okay? So, I will help him win. John Marks asks, why? Are you Republican? It's not a matter of why. Are you or aren't you? Why? I mean, why ask why? You either are or you're not. Okay? So, no, John Marks, you tell me what party you're in, then I'll answer your question. Malcolm, all right. You're not Republican. Okay, I want Steve Sisolak to win for the same reason that I told him when I first called him before, in that I said that we have a crisis in this country, and it's a jobs crisis, but we don't talk about it because it's masked by a low unemployment rate. We have a gigantic underemployment rate. And what's happened is that in California, we don't spend money, public money, to create jobs that the rest of the people can get. We leave it to the techies. And that's a bad thing. It's creating the kind of have versus have-not society we have that we have it within our means to fix. And we haven't done that. And so, but John Marks says, you're an independent. Okay, that's my point. See, you're not a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I'm a big D Democrat. I have Republican friends and all that, but I am a Democrat. I'm an old-style liberal Democrat, so is Sisolak. He speaks my language in terms of building. I speak his. We just happen to be in the opposite sides. He wasn't afraid to make that expenditure. I live in a city that was afraid to come up with even a private financing approach. Afraid, okay? They weren't afraid, all right? Cowboys are a JFK Democrat, so as am I. And so John Marks says, however, how can you help someone who stole the Raiders away? He didn't steal the Raiders away. He didn't steal the Raiders away by any means at all. Steve Sisolak didn't do that. The Raiders weren't stolen. One thing I need you to understand is that the Raiders did not act in good faith with us to allow anything to happen. It would be a different thing if the Raiders acted in good faith and Nevada came along and did something that was untoward themselves. They didn't. Now, had that said, if I were mayor, I would have slapped an economic tampering lawsuit on Clark County like that. And I would have had my lawyers, and I would help my lawyers fashion a legal rationale to make it stick and win in court, okay? On top of what I would have done with the Raiders. Because if I'm being fooled, if I'm dealing with somebody that's I can't trust, that's suable. And that lawsuit should have flown out the door. But the city is scared. You know, it's ran by people who are running scared all the time, rather than just like, you know what, boom, do this. Boom, do it, all right? Okay. All right, folks, I can go on with this, but it is now 1:52, and it's past the time that I was going to stop. Watch horror films, everybody. Keep America strong. I'll see you guys, all right? We can talk about this all night long, but I don't have all night long. Check out, please, OaklandNewsNow.com. My great, grand, and glorious brand new blog, Oakland, I'm going to put it right here again. HTTP Oakland News Now. There it is. right there. Check it out. All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see ya.